An old man and a boy in high school uniforms are running through the woods during a battle. Suddenly, the old man is hit by a bullet from behind. He falls to the ground in pain, telling the boy named Yoshiharu about his dreams and plans. He tells the boy to live his dream for him, which revolves around building a castle, uniting the country, and having lots of women around him. Just as the man is about to give up the ghost, he tells Yoshi his name is Kinoshita. Suddenly, something clicks in Yoshi's brain and grabs the old man and tries to stop him from giving up because his death will mess up history worse than a time traveler stepping on a butterfly. Apparently, the old man is supposed to serve Nobunaga and unite Japan. The old man, now fully committed to his dramatic death scene, whispers that the head of the Nobunaga clan is Oda Nobunaga. And then he dies because apparently historical accuracy isn't a thing in this forest. Yoshi stands up, assuming that everything that is happening is a dream and that he will wake up in no time. After all, he is a big fan of the game Oda Nobunaga's Ambition and he must have fallen asleep while playing. Suddenly a white horse comes dashing out of the bush and the rider is a yellow-haired, scary-looking lady. The lady is facing off with an enemy soldier and just as they are about to have a standoff, our MC decides to intervene. He dashes in, scolding the soldier for trying to hurt a pretty chick. The soldier cannot but laugh at him because he is unarmed and he is about to have his life thrashed. He realizes that he messed up, but that moment Yoshi remembers that he has something that can help him. He brings out his cell phone to play a sound, imitating soldiers coming to back them up. This works brilliantly until it doesn't. He forgot to charge his phone, and it dies at the most important moment. The enemy soldier is now realizing Yoshi's magic is just a dead brick, prepared to turn him into a human pink Christian. At this point, he believes that they are done for, but thankfully one of the chick's generals comes charging in, chasing away the enemy soldiers. During this, Yoshi learns that the yellow-haired chick is the Oda leader, leaving him in shock. He's even more shocked when the girl introduces herself as Oda Nobunaga, not Nobunaga as he expected. Apparently, this is the Sengoku era where the firstborn becomes the leader of their clan irrespective of their gender. It turns out that all the characters that our MC knows from his game are all ladies instead of men. After the enemy has been chased out, they return to the castle, where Nobunaga tries to get an understanding of the device that our guy used during the battle. When it is time for introductions, Yoshi ends up getting kicked in the face for messing up Nobunaga's name. In return, she decides to call him Monkey instead of his real name. He tries telling the lady that he is from the future, but he gets kicked yet again. Since she doesn't believe in fairy tales, she doesn't believe that Yoshi is from the future. One of Nobunaga's executives, the tactician, then suggests that they use him as one of their retainers. In the enemy territory of Imagawa, the leader Imaga Yoshimoto scolds her servant for failing to eliminate Nobunaga. However, she learns that they almost had her but were saved by a guy named Monkey. Our boy is checking out a place to stay, when he is suddenly whisked away by a little girl named Goemon, who has come to serve him in place of her master, Kinoshita. Apparently, she is the dead old man's companion, and they share the same views and opinions. From that moment forward, Yoshi decides that he is going to live out the old man's dream. Meanwhile, there is another enemy growing and his name is Yoshitatsu. He plans to attack Nobunaga, but his father, who is the Lord of Mino, Saito Dosen, suggests they befriend Nobunaga instead. Not long after this, he sends a meeting invitation to Nobunaga. Before they learn about the location of the meeting, Yoshi decides to prove to the lady that he is from the future. He tells her exactly where the meeting will be happening, and just as he said it, it happens. When asked how he knows this, he simply replies that he has spent a lot of time playing the Ambition of Nobunaga and knows almost all of the events. Nobunaga and his girls assume that he is speaking in some barbarian language because they can't seem to understand whatever shit he just spewed. On their way to the meeting, Nobunaga is escorted by a large force, but unknown to her, Saito and his army are secretly lying in wait to eliminate her. Our MC knows this, and to prevent this, he tells Nobunaga to order her men to light their rifles in preparation for an attack. When Saito sees this from his hiding place, he calls off the attack, thus saving the chick's life. Moments later, the two leaders meet at the said temple. Everyone is shocked to see Nobunaga dressed in a beautiful outfit instead of her battle clothes. The meeting begins, and Saito is surprised it's not going the way he wants. Nobunaga bluntly tells him her intention to take over the Mino province, since whoever controls it has a higher chance of conquering the entire nation. She gives a speech so inspiring it could have been ripped straight out of Naruto, but Saito isn't convinced. Saito understands her dreams, but he is not willing to let go of his province. Because of this, he decides that he is going to go to war against Nobunaga. However, our nosy MC comes running into the building. He's given the chance to speak because Saito believes that it is going to be entertaining. However, Saito has his sword ready to cut off Yoshi's head if he says the wrong thing. Surprisingly, he tells Saito exactly what's going on in his head. Apparently, Saito knows that he can't defeat Nobunaga, and going to war with her will only lead to the destruction of his legacy and the death of his sons. Saito is shocked to hear this, and he stands there in awe as Yoshi urges him to hand over Mino to Nobunaga, because she is the only one who can continue his dream. Upon hearing this, the old soldier admits defeat because he didn't expect someone 450 years from the future to show up. Once everything is settled, Saito assures Nobunaga that he is going to prepare a treaty to hand over his province to her. In fact, he calls Nobunaga his new daughter. With this new development, the Oda province controlled by Nobunaga and the Mino province ruled by Nobunaga became allies. However, Sato's son, Yoshitatsu, isn't ready to accept this agreement. Yoshi is enjoying a depressing meal prepared by his help when one of Nobunaga's executives, Katsui, calls him to follow her. He follows her into town, where he learns that the people in the market can now trade freely without restrictions. At the market, they run into Nobunaga's little brother, Nobukatsu. Nobukatsu calls his sister a fool, and Yoshi, being the loyal and slightly impulsive guy he is, moves closer to the boy and calls him a bore for insulting his sister. Katsui tries telling our MC to watch his tongue before something goes horribly wrong. Apparently, Katsui's official duty is to be Nobukatsu's aide. The little brat then reveals that he can't let his sister have a worry because the province will be left in ruins. Hearing this, Yoshi asks him if he has any plans for the province if he becomes the leader. Nobukatsu then reveals his grand plan for the province if he becomes the leader, providing rice jellies for everyone. When Yoshi points out that his plan isn't feasible, Nobukatsu changes it up and declares that he'll destroy all their enemies and bring cute girls to the province. Yoshi's eyes light up for a moment. He considers that getting cute girls isn't such a bad idea, but he quickly shakes it off. He tells Nobukatsu he's not fit to rule, which only makes the kid angrier, and he starts to rant that his sister is a fool who is hated even by her own mother. The little brat is still ranting about how he is supposed to be the ruler when he is suddenly smacked to the head by Yoshi. He scolds him for calling his sister a fool, but hitting Nobukatsu was completely out of line. The spoiled brat then uses the opportunity to call for his head, and at that moment our favorite MC knows he's messed up. Nobunaga soon hears of this and the fact that Nobukatsu will start another rebellion if his wish is not granted. She is not ready to do what her brother wants, but Yoshi reminds her that a rebellion would be bad for the province. Before he can finish the nonsense he is spewing, he gets kicked in the face because apparently everything is his fault in the first place. Even Katsui doesn't want a scenario where she has to fight Nobunaga. She unsheathes her weapon and is about to use it, but Nobunaga stops her. In an attempt to save Yoshi's life, they would have to elevate his status. Getting hit by a regular foot soldier is totally unacceptable, but by a general it is totally different. Nobunaga plans to promote him to a general at a moment's notice, but before she does this, she wants him to earn the title first. She gives him a small amount of money and orders him to bring a large quantity of rice with it. The task is difficult, but Nobunaga doesn't care because if he can't do it, he doesn't deserve to be called a general. Surprisingly, Yoshi agrees to the task and he is also expected to finish up in 1 week. Since he has a method that he normally uses to double his money, he doesn't think it is going to be a big problem for him. He tells his assistants about his plan to buy goods where they're cheap and sell them all where they cost more. He's going to do this over and over again until he has the required money he needs to buy the quantity of rice he wants. Meanwhile, Nobukatsu's retainers are already gearing him up for a battle. They are confident that Yoshi will fail, and Nobukatsu can use this as a perfect chance to rebel against his sister. When Nobunaga hears of her brother's plan to wage war, she lets it be known that she is not going to forgive him again. She plans to unalive him this time and let it be settled. It is going to be a big slap to her if she can't unite her own house, less of uniting Japan. 7 days later, Yoshi already has a room full of money, but his stupid ass forgets the main reason why he was acquiring the money. It's a whole load of money, but not a single grain of rice, and to make things worse, the challenge is due to end that evening. He then employs his assistants, Inochio and Goemon, to help buy the rice while he talks to Nobunaga. While they are waiting, she decides to test his knowledge about the globe. She has a world map in her room, and to test him, she urges him to show her where Japan is located on the map. He does this without any issue, and in addition he shows her that the so-called barbarians are from Europe. She already knows this, but she is glad that someone finally shares the same views as her. Yoshi calls her a genius, and when she hears this, she reveals that there is someone just like our MC whom she cares for deeply. Apparently, this figure was the one who told Nobunaga about the world, and the person is most likely a barbarian. Before they know it, it is sunset, and Nobunaga, being true to her word, unleashes her sword in preparation to take Yoshi's head. He doesn't object to this because Nobukatsu will rebel if he is denied what he wants. Just as she is about to relieve him of his head, Inochio and Goemon come flying in. They stop Nobuna from carrying out the execution, telling her that the rice is being brought in. Apparently they were interrupted during the process of acquiring the rice. The Countess steps outside to check out the rice, and she is shocked to see that Yoshi was able to acquire 4 times the quantity of rice that she initially demanded. Since he is successful at his task, our MC can now keep his head. However, reports come in that Nobukatsu has already gathered his army and has started a rebellion. He and his retainers have barricaded themselves in his castle, and this includes Katsui. Nobuna is mad when she hears this, and she wastes no time preparing for battle. Yoshi tries to talk her out of it, but doesn't work. He knows that Nobuna will eventually kill her brother if he fails to do something about it. Since all Nobukatsu has to do is surrender, Yoshi devises a plan. The next morning, 1,000 plus soldiers surround the castle where Nobukatsu is hiding. Instead of attacking, our MC urges them to start shouting and praising Nobuna's name. This echoes so loudly that it starts affecting those in the castle. In no time, this breaks the spirits of the men inside the castle, and they all start chanting Nobuna's name together. Nobukatsu cannot take the chance any longer. He ends up caving in. Once the siege is over, Nobuna prepares to behead her brother. Her eyes turn dark as she's about to kill her little brother out of honor. However, Yoshi won't let this happen because he knows that if Nobuna kills her brother, it will break her. He blocks Nobuna and manages to convince her about her decision. Deep down, she doesn't want to kill her brother, and after a deep emotional talk from our main character, she backs down and forgives her baby brother. In return, Nobukatsu pledged his allegiance and even changed his name to Suda Nobusumi in order to crush any rebellious ideas in the future. With this, the Owari clan becomes united under Nobuna. Under the nightlight, Yoshi ends up swearing loyalty to Nobuna, promising her that he will always be there by her side. Not long after this, Yoshitatsu incites a rebellion to kill his father. He manages to convince the main houses in Mino to turn their backs on his father to prevent him from handing over Mino to Nobuna. Nobuna soon learns of this and the fact that Sato's army is greatly outnumbered. However, Sato doesn't seem concerned by this because he plans to die on the battlefield. Yoshi doesn't want this to happen since he expects Sato to be alive to witness Nobuna carry out her acts. Even though Nobuna is clearly in pain, she decides that no reinforcements will be sent to help Sato. She obviously knows that the old man will only lecture her and not accept the help. She runs out of the meeting with eyes filled with tears, reminding Yoshi of the same situation with her brother. Meanwhile, an annoying dude is making his way into Owari with plans to seduce Nobuna into marrying him. Yoshi visits Nobuna in her chambers to console her. With the way things are going, there's a high chance Saito will die in battle. To take her mind off things, Nobuna decides to tell Yoshi a story about the world globe. It was given to her by a barbarian missionary she cared about, the one who taught her about the world and inspired her dream of traveling it. Sadly, the missionary is dead and Nobuna believes everyone she loves ends up joining the afterlife sooner rather than later. First it was her father, now Saito is also going to die. At this point, she believes that she is cursed not to love anyone. Not long after this, they welcome the annoying dude whose name is Asai Nagamasa and he is from the Asai clan. His clan rules the Omi province, which is quite important. He is considered to be important because before reaching the capital, one needs to go through him. After getting the pleasantries out of the way, Nobuna asks the guy what he wants. In a prideful statement, he tells the lady that he has come to remove the cause of her suffering. And talking about this suffering, he means Saito. He lets Nobuna know that he can provide help. If they can both attack simultaneously from the north and south, they get a chance to save Saito. According to him, there is no doubt that an alliance between Owari, Omi, and Mino will be an unstoppable force. The offer is too good to be true, and Nobuna, not being a fool, knows the guy obviously wants something in return. She asks him what he wants and he simply tells Nobuna that he would like to make her his wife. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Saito and his army are greatly outnumbered and it is now obvious that he is going to die. However, he sends a message to his new daughter just in case he later dies. Back at the castle, Nobuna is shocked to hear the marriage proposal. In the background, our MC is having a hard time because he knows he is no match for Asai. Nobuna is shocked but also flattered by this. She then asks Asai if he is in love with her, but he bluntly replies that he is not. He lets the Countess know that all he is proposing is a political marriage with no grain of love involved. The moment she hears this, she bursts out in anger, telling the young man that she has no interest in a marriage that is not solidified by love. She has always had the dream of choosing someone she loves, and she is not ready to change that now. When asked who she loves, her facial expression clearly points to Yoshi. Asai gets a hold of this, but Nobuna tries to be sleek and hide the obvious fact. A love argument starts between Yoshi and Nobuna because she expects him to fight for her, but our boy also expects her to just reject the invitation if she is not interested. Asai stands up to leave, and he reminds the Countess that Saito will die without his help. In addition, the Nobuna clan will definitely fall if it makes an enemy of the Asai clan. At this point, it is clear that she is being blackmailed. Nobuna's retainers to sit down to talk about their predicament. It is clear that they cannot send reinforcements to help Saito because Imagawa's soldiers are at their border. Any slight puncture in their defense and Imagawa will use the opportunity to invade them. Out of desperation, Yoshi stands up to talk to Asai. He tries to convince him about his choice. He even urges him to at least tell Nobuna that he loves her. But being the monster that he is, Asai refuses. Out of anger, our MC almost hits him, but he has stopped just in time. He is reminded that doing that will only lead to war with the Asai clan. Asai adds salt to Yoshi's wounds by telling him that a relationship between him and Nobuna will never work because he's a lowlife, while Nobuna is basically royalty. Later, Asai meets with Nobuna again to hear her decision. Before she can respond, Yoshi and the retainers burst in. They declare that they won't let him turn their leader into a tool for his political dominance. Asai is disappointed by this, and he angrily leaves, letting the group know that they might end up regretting their decision. Just then, a messenger from Saito arrives, carrying a message from Saito. In the letter, he tells Nobuna about how he is proud to have her carry his lifelong dream. Since he is about to die, he prays for Nobuna's dreams to come true. Nobuna reads the letter with tears, and just as she is about to muster her forces for reinforcements, she is knocked out by Katsui. Katsui justifies her actions by letting Yoshi know that it would be foolish of them to send reinforcements. Yoshi is not ready to accept defeat. He plans to save Saito by himself, and he wastes no time putting together a force that he trusts, and they move out to rescue the Viper of Mino, Saito. Soon afterward, he arrives on the battlefield. However, the Viper is mad at him for coming. Saito tries to open Yoshi's eyes to the fact that he is more important than he is. Saito might share the same views as Nobuna, but Yoshi will be the one to help her achieve them. Our guy understands where the old man is coming from, but he lets him know that he is not returning to Owari without him. When Nobuna finally wakes up, she is shocked to hear that Yoshi has set out to rescue Saito. At that moment, Yoshi, Saito, and the rescue force are overwhelmed by Yoshitatsu's forces. Thankfully, they manage to get into Owari territory, but Sato's son will not give up. He plans to chase them until the very end. Fortunately, Nobuna and her forces appear on the scene to push back the enemy forces. Yoshi and the old man are rescued, but when Nobuna gets off her horse, she slaps Yoshi for causing her to worry. At the same time, reports come in that Imagawa forces have invaded the land since it is defenseless. The Imagawa army invading Owari numbers up to 25,000, and they are led by a person named Motoyasu. Because of how overwhelming the enemy forces are, Nobuna plans to give up. Yoshi doesn't want this to happen, and he assures her that she's going to win. In a twist of things, she looks at our guy and lets him know that he is fired. Because of his selfish act of rescuing Saito without telling her, Nobuna doesn't want to hear anything else from him. Even when told that Yoshi is from the future and can possess knowledge of how they can win, Nobuna doesn't care. In fact, she now believes that our MC's knowledge is flawed because he would be dead meat if she hadn't shown up to rescue his ass. She even believes that his words of helping her dreams come true are mere words and nothing more. Nobuna returns to the castle to barricade herself in her room, and Yoshi also starts thinking about everything that she said to him. Just as he's about to spiral into self-doubt, Saito shows up. The old man asks Yoshi if they can truly defeat Imagawa based on his future knowledge, and Yoshi says yes. However, Saito points out a glaring flaw. In the future, where Nobuna defeated Imagawa, Saito was dead. So technically, his knowledge is already outdated. Yoshi groans because now even history is gaslighting him. The old man knows Nobuna has realized this fact, which is why she fired Yoshi so she wouldn't have to take him into battle. She doesn't want to lose more loved ones after all. Being the stubborn person that he is, our MC is determined to save Nobuna even if history doesn't align with what he knows. Just as he prepares to embark on his plan, he is surprised to find out that his loyal forces have gathered to help him out. They are all prepared to follow Yoshi, even if it means entering hell. In no time, the group sets out and he lets them know that they're heading to Okihazama. With his knowledge of the game, Yoshimoto would be camping at Okihazama. However, he is shocked when he learns that Okihazama is a mountain. It seems the game is different from reality after all. He's thinking about his impending failure when Nobukatsu, now known as Nobusumi, shows up to help. Yoshi plans to launch a sneak attack into Okihazama, but now that it has turned out to be a mountain, he is not so sure. He heaves a sigh of relief when he learns from one of the retainers that there's a flat path to the mountain. Not long after this, they are able to reach the said location. He tells Nobusumi to distract Yoshimoto with his wits and cunning moves while he prepares a sneak attack on the camp. Just moments later, Yoshi, Inochio and Goemon are ambushed by Amagawa ninjas led by a guy named Hanzo. Yoshi is urged to leave them and return to the castle. All of their efforts depend on Nobunaga making it to the plan and taking down Yoshimoto. Presently, he runs off, but he is followed by the ninja leader. He is chased through the woods as he dodges multiple shurikens aimed at him. His luck runs out when one of the blades hits him. He falls to the ground, thinking about death, but his desire to help Nobunaga pushes him to stand up. Face to face with Hanzo, Yoshi is left with only his words. He reminds Hanzo that Yoshimoto will cut Motoyasu off if Amagawa wins, and Hanzo doesn't want this because he is loyal to Motoyasu. RMC then assures the ninja guy that he can help break an alliance between Motoyasu and Nobunaga. He is able to convince the ninja guy to let him live. Hanzo expects Yoshi to fulfill his words or else he will find him and kill him. Wounded, RMC continues his walk to the castle. Meanwhile, Nobunaga's retainers are bickering amongst themselves. Our boy finally makes it to Nobunaga's room to tell her where Yoshimoto's camp is located. He assures her that the forces in the camp are cut off from the main forces and that she can easily take the camp. Nobunaga's eyes lit up with hope when she heard this. Without wasting time, she gathers her main forces and they march toward Okiyazama. Hanzo stands on a hilltop and has the power to stop this, but Yoshi has successfully won him over and all he can do now is watch and wait. To solidify their alliance with the higher powers, it starts to rain. In no time, Nobunaga and her forces arrive at the enemy's camp. The loud sound of thunder shakes the enemy's camp, and even Yoshimoto gets scared, as if she knows that something gory is coming for her. The moment Yoshimoto realizes that she's under attack, the majority of her forces have all gotten drunk from Nobusumi's wine. This opens the way for Nobunaga and her army to easily cut through and reach the camp. All that is left is for Yoshimoto to scream while begging for someone to protect her. Katsui is about to take her out when Yoshi intervenes. He holds her back, urging her not to unalive the girl. RMC then approaches the little girl, urging her to surrender because the war is over. She doesn't want to call off her army, but she immediately has a rethink of it when Yoshi calls her cute. With this, the battle comes to an end and Yoshimoto's forces surrender. The Amagawa clan, also known as the Straw Mist, also fell from power that very day. For Yoshi's reward, he gets kicked in the face by Nobunaga for calling Yoshimoto cute. After the battle, Nobunaga continues to enjoy the spoils of war, but RMC finds a way to annoy her. She is forced to ask him what he wants as a reward for his effort in defeating Imaga. To carry on the old man's dreams, he asks for the prettiest girl in the land. Not long after this, Nobunaga begins waging war against Mino in an attempt to force Yoshitatsu to surrender. However, they are faced with calculated battle plans from the enemy. All of her plans to take on Mino keep on failing, leaving her with no single win after her win against Imaga. Nobunaga is forced to call for a meeting so she can know why it is difficult to get a win. Saito then reveals that Mino has a genius strategist in their ranks who makes every battle easy for them. The said strategist is a secret, which is why they have never heard of him. As expected, Yoshi knows who this genius is, and his name is Hanbei. Before he can talk about how impressive Hanbei is, Nobunaga hits him in the head. She scolds him for not revealing who he is the entire time, but in his defense, he only just found out after their last battle. However, the question that remains is how they are going to defeat Mino. Our guy lets them know that the only chance they have is to get Hanbei on their side. Apparently Hanbei is a kind and honorable man, which is why most of them are still alive, even though he's got multiple chances to end them. On the other end, Yoshitatsu is man that Hanbei has not come to show himself since he became the ruler. Back to Nobunaga and her ministers, Yoshi volunteers to bring Hanbei to their side, confident that he is the only one who can convince him to join them. To help our guys, Saito tells his retainer, Mitsuhita, to assist him. Mitsuhita tells our favorite MC that Hanbei is an entity known as an Onmyoji. Yoshi and Mitsuhita then visit Hanbei's uncle, Ando. They need his help to convince his niece to defect to Nobunaga's side. Ando reveals that the retainers have been having issues with Yoshitatsu lately, but is going to take more than words for them to defect to Nobunaga's camp. Yoshi is shocked when he finds Asai at Ando's house. It turns out that he is there on the same mission as our MC. He also wants to use this as a good deed to get Nobunaga's favor. However, our guy assures Asai that he will never lay his hands on Nobunaga. This immediately comes down to whoever gets to Hanbei first. Out of nowhere, Hanbei appears in the room. Since the two were about to have a showdown on who will get Hanbei, he proposes the game. He presents them a tray with 4 cakes. Only one of the 4 is the good cake, and the first to eat the good one is the winner. However, there is a catch to this. One of the 3 bad cakes is poisoned. The stakes are high, but whoever wins will get Hanbei, which automatically gives them Mino. Yoshi is the first to pick, but he ends up picking the spicy cake, which burns his mouth. Asai also makes his choice, but it turns out it wasn't the right one. With 2 left on the tray, the 2 dudes pick separate cakes, but it turns out that neither is correct. Hanbei just laughs at them like a maniac, and in a twist of things, he transforms into a white wolf. He continues mocking them, but Inochio is done having his nonsense, and she knocks him out. Panic breaks out as they believe that they have killed the strategist they wanted to turn. Just then, Inochio feels something weird in the room. She wastes no time cutting down the door leading to a small closet. Inside the closet is a small girl, and surprisingly, she is the real Hanbei. She appears to be a shy girl, and the person who they believed was Hanbei was actually Zenki, a guy whom she uses as her double. Since Hanbei is very shy and scared of how people will treat her, Zenki became her face. RMC then assures the girl that he is not going to be mean to her. Later on, Yoshitatsu becomes impatient and arrests Ando. He demands that Hanbei show himself or else Ando will die. When she hears of this, she becomes devastated. But as expected, Yoshi is willing to help the girl. Asai wants Ando executed so that Hanbei will become angry and resent Yoshitatsu, making it easier for her to defect. However, RMC is kind-hearted and he won't allow a girl to be sad. After confirming that Ando is still alive, he tells Inochio and Goemon to rescue him while he tries to convince Yoshitatsu that Hanbei is not his enemy. Not long after this, Asai and Yoshi escort Hanbei to meet with Yoshitatsu. Everyone in the room is shocked when they learn that the great strategist is just a little girl. While the meeting is ongoing, Goemon and her peer have rescued Ando. They are now waiting in the ceiling to rescue Yoshi and Hanbei in case things go south. Yoshitatsu shows how much of a weakling he is as he starts to accuse Hanbei of treason. He is desperate to make the girl look like a bad person, just so he can assert his dominance. Yoshi cuts in, opening Yoshitatsu's eyes to how wrong he is. However, Yoshitatsu is not a man to reason with, and he orders his men to kill Yoshi and Asai. The 2 stand up to defend themselves, and this is when Count Yoshitatsu notices the crest on Asai's blade. This raises his suspicion, and to make his situation less dire, Asai also exposes Yoshi's cover. He tells the Count who Yoshi is in an attempt to deceive him into thinking that he is on his side. However, this blows back on him. The Count doesn't care, he just wants them dead, and that is it. Thankfully, Goemon and her peers hit the room with smoke bombs. Before they can rescue Hanbei, Yoshitatsu grabs her, revealing his plan to make the girl his concubine. This angers the girl, forcing her to release multiple spells that knock out Yoshitatsu and his men. When the dust settles, Yoshi realizes that they have control of the castle, but Hanbei is burning with fever. Without hesitation, Yoshi sacrifices the castle to get Hanbei to safety. When Hanbei wakes up, she thanks our guy for saving her, and because of how he has acted, she defects but swears fealty to Yoshi and Yoshi only. Continuing with her plan to take Mino, Nobuna and her team know that building a fort at Tsunomata will guarantee their win, but there is one big problem. Inabima Castle, where Yoshitatsu resides, is close to the location. Any attempt to build anything in the area will be met with overwhelming force from the guy. However, they need to make this work somehow because this is the only way they can take Mino. Nobuna tries to intimidate Hanbei into serving her instead of Yoshi, but she ultimately fails. Nobuna finally decides to assign the building of the fort to one of her retainers. It comes as a shocker when she assigns the task to Katsui. Yoshi protests against the decision, but Nobuna only did this to prevent people from saying she is treating our MC specially. He has done a lot lately, and if he's given the task, people might assume Nobuna is being partial. Meanwhile, the issue between Yoshitatsu and his retainers continues. They are not particularly happy with the way he does his thing, but he's a stubborn man and will not change. Reports suddenly come in that Nobuna is trying to build a fort in Tsunomata. He wastes no time in sending out his forces to destroy the fort before it gets anywhere. Katsui and her men try their best to hold off the enemy but fail. They are forced to retreat and abandon their plans to forcefully build the fort. After Katsui, the task is given to 2 others, but even they fail at it. Yoshi then visits Nobuna in her chambers in an attempt to get the task. He doesn't want any more souls to die, and he assures Nobuna that he already has a plan. Nobuna finally agrees, and before awarding him the mission, she gives an accord, which signifies his position as a general. Their plan is to build the fort overnight, while Nobuna takes her main forces elsewhere to distract Yoshitatsu. When the stubborn Yoshitatsu hears of this, he sends his 2 remaining retainers to go after Nobuna and bring him her head. He assures them that he's staying back at home is all part of the plan. When Nobuna hears about Yoshitatsu's movement, she is glad that their plan is working. All they have to do is keep his forces engaged until our MC is able to finish up the fort. Yoshi employs a technique from the future, building the fort structures in the woods and moving them to the site. It's like IKEA, but with more samurai, he explains to the workers. Nobuna soon receives reports that Yoshitatsu's forces are going through a different route, which is a tiny one. Apparently he was trying to draw them in. She knows this is a big risk, since Yoshi will be expecting her to return to Tsunomana before he is overwhelmed. She starts her journey to engage the enemy forces, but she is ambushed in a small town. This gives the enemy forces the chance to corner. While Nobuna fights the enemy, our MC is doing his best to make sure the fort comes up before dawn. In the heat of battle, something unexpected happens. Gunpowders that have been stored in the area start to explode, leaving a wallfire to trap both forces inside. It turns out that Yoshitatsu plans to sacrifice his retainers alongside Nobuna. By dawn, Yoshitatsu receives reports about the battle, and he is glad that he has won. He is about to start celebrating when he learns that a fort has been built in Tsunomana. At a moment's notice, his men march for the fort to destroy it. It is left to Yoshi and his forces to hold back the enemy before Nobuna shows up. Meanwhile, Nobuna is still trapped in the fire. Instead of fighting the retainers, she manages to convince them to defect to her side. Once they are all on the same page, she tells her men to search the area for gunpowder. Yoshitatsu's forces have started closing in on the fort. One of the enemy forces gets very close and aims his gun at Yoshi. He pulls the trigger, but Goemon jumps in to save her boss. She gets hit, leaving her boss to scream out in agony. To open a path, Nobuna ignites the remaining gunpowder to blow away the wall of fire. Even the retainers are shocked at her ingenuity, and now realize why Saito wanted to ally himself with the lady. Nobuna hurriedly rides to Tsunomana, praying that she gets there on time to save Yoshi and the fort. The battle of the fort intensifies and the enemy has started to overrun them. Our main character carries Goemon in his hands while he screams out Nobuna's name. By the time Nobuna arrives, all she sees in the distance is thick smoke coming from the location of the fort. She gets off her horse and starts to cry, but suddenly she sees Yoshi waiting at her from inside the smoke. She heaves a sigh of relief to see that her beloved is still alive. Nobuna immediately orders her forces to charge toward the fort. Even Yoshitatsu is shocked when he finds out that his plan failed and Nobuna is still alive. Asai assembles his forces to try and exploit the situation, but Nobuna already anticipated this. She has sent one of her retainers to make sure no one interferes in the battle. Nobuna pushes back the enemy, and in a moment of joy, it turns out that the bullet hit Goemon's chain mail, which only knocked her out. Nobuna wins the battle. And finally, she's able to acquire the Mina province. She then renamed the Inabayama Castle Gifu Castle, which translates to stepfather. After the battle, Yoshitatsu is expecting the death penalty, but surprisingly, Nobuna lets him go, even with the threat that she might regret it later. Saito is also not in line with Nobuna's decision, and he angrily leaves the room. Later on, Yoshi finds the old man, letting him know that Nobuna only spared him the guilt of killing his own son. He further opens his eyes to the fact that Nobuna now sees her as a father, which is why she renamed Inabayama to Gifu. Soon after, the nation's capital come under attack from the three big families known as the Miyoshi Three. The rulers, the Ashikaga, were unceremoniously booted from power, leaving the country in a chaotic, leaderless mess. The news barely has time to settle before Nobuna calls an emergency meeting. Her people gather, bracing themselves for another round of war strategy and probably a few moments of Nobuna being Nobuna. The topic of discussion, marching to the capital to restore order, Mitsuhita, ever the tactician, suggests installing Imagawa Yoshimoto as the new ruler since she carries Ashikaga blood. Nobuna is so impressed by the suggestion that she actually pauses for a moment before showering Mitsuhita with praise, probably the closest thing to an Employee of the Month award in this era. As preparations for their march to the capital begin, the ever-annoying Asai makes yet another appearance, like an unskippable side quest. He insists on reminding Nobuna of their previously discussed alliance and marriage proposal. Nobuna, now armed with blackmail material, shuts him down effortlessly. Since he's already boasted about his upcoming wedding to Nobuna, rejecting him now would be social suicide. Instead, Nobuna gets creative. She offers up her younger sister in marriage. The twist? She has no younger sister. Nobuna then proposes another cunning deal. She dresses Nobusumi up as a girl and presents her to Asai. Asai, who is desperate to marry someone from the Nobuna clan, doesn't do his investigation properly before zooming off with the boy. Yoshi is shocked by how smart Nobuna is, but he lets her know that he will not be fooled. He reminds her about their previous deal concerning his reward. He wants the prettiest girl in the land, and since he is not backing off, she tells him to wash himself in preparation for that night. Fast forward to that night and Yoshi is practically bouncing with excitement until he sees who Nobuna sends his way. Not a beautiful lady, not a high-ranking noblewoman, but a little girl named Nene. His reward isn't a wife, but a brand new baby sister. 2 frauds in one day, Nobuna is on fire. After her alliance with Asai, Nobuna marches on the capital, and in no time, she arrives outside the capital Kyo. Arriving at Kyo, they meet a desolate town that is being run over by bandits. Yoshi heads to the Yamato Palace, where Lady Himiko is to receive him. Himiko is said to be the head of the Yamato court and also a descendant of those who built the nation. On his way to the palace, he runs into a bandit carrying a girl. Inochio gets into action and takes out the bandit, thus saving the girl's life. Our guy can feel a strange aura coming from the girl, and when she suggests that they leave the scene, he somewhat agrees without any argument. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the imperial advisor of Konoe and his shadowy associates are revealed to be the masterminds behind the capital's downfall. Furious that Himiko remains free, Konoe sends in Danjo, a ruthless woman with a betrayal record longer than a history textbook. Elsewhere, Nobuna continues her rampage through enemy territories, showing no mercy to those who stand in her way. Later on, Yoshi runs into a troublesome girl, Bontimaru, who is accompanying a European nun. They are surrounded by bandits, but Bontimaru and Inochio take care of the bad men. After the fight is over, the nun introduces herself as Louise Froise, a missionary from France. She explains how she was turned away from the court, a place she thought would help her. In addition, she was planning to stay at the court because she wanted to meet Himiko, since they are both servants of higher beings. Apparently, it is her dream for the nation to be united and have a community where everyone can live happily. After hearing her wish, Yoshi calmly looks at her and assures her that her wish will come true. As long as you don't give up, you'll come to reality, he says. Nobuna continues her conquest, and when she gets to the last castle, separating her from the capital, she sends out a surrender notice to those in the capital. She doesn't want to harm them, but if they choose not to surrender, she wants them to run. However, she promises not to chase them if they do. This is just typical Nobuna, soft when she needs to be and ruthless when the situation calls for it. Nobuna's breakthrough the last line of defense causes some particular people problems, and one of them is the ruler of Ichizen Asakura. He expected the men in the castle to fight to their last breath, but it seems the men are wise enough to know when they have lost. Asakura's main objective is to capture Nobuna and make her his wife. To try and slow Nobuna down, the bad guys plan to set fire to Kyo. With this, they will have their forces occupy the capital while Nobuna is dealing with a problem in Kyo. Surprisingly, one of those who will be causing Nobuna problems is a man working for Asakura, and this is none other than Yoshitatsu, who now wears a mask to hide his identity. Somewhere in Kyo, Yoshi is having a discussion with the little girl he saved earlier when he and Inochio are knocked out by a supernatural presence brought about by Danjo. It turns out that the little girl is Lady Himiko, and Danjo is there to bring her back. However, Himiko manages to convince the lady to leave her with Yoshi and his friends. She plans to return by herself and not with force. When he finally wakes up, feeling like he got run over by a war elephant, he realizes the girl he's been escorting is none other than the head of the Yamato court. Meanwhile, outside the city, Nobuna's forces continue to plow through their enemies, one step closer to reclaiming the capital. When Nobuna's clan tries to install Yoshimoto Imagawa, they run into a bit of a problem from Konoha. He is requesting that they pay a high amount of money for Imagawa to be installed as the new leader. To solve this problem, Nobuna and Yoshi travel to Sakai, a trade city that has 36 merchants ruling it, and the leader of the merchants is a man called Imai. They visit Imai's house to talk to him. Meanwhile, the bad guys are trying to get under Mitsuhida's skin to get her to do something wrong to her team without her even realizing it. Nobuna wants Imai to borrow her the money to install Imagawa, but he politely refuses. He lets the lady know that he himself will go broke if he tries lending out such an amount of money. While Nobuna struggles with financial woes, her generals battle enemies in the capital. Among them is Yoshitatsu, still rocking his disguise. Despite fierce opposition, Nobuna remains confident they have the master strategist after all. Seeking alternative solutions, she asks Mitsuhida for advice. Mitsuhida, in full no-nonsense mode, suggests bringing Sakai to the ground and seizing the money. Nobuna instantly rejects this idea, seeing Sakai as the future economic gateway of her unified nation. But Mitsuhida's extreme suggestion hints at her growing desperation to prove herself. Nobuna arranges a meeting with Sakai merchants to try and raise money. Since they are going to need something of value in return, she tells them that Monkey will prepare a fantastic dish for them. However, Mitsuhita jumps in, telling the Countess that she should be the one for the job. Nobuna initially rejects her offer, but the merchant suggests that she enter into a competition with Yoshi. The merchant spokesperson, Suda, plans to battle Mitsuhita while Imai bets on the monkey. He plans to get a seat on the inner table if he wins. In addition, he will be buying Mitsuhita's dish. After the meeting, Yoshi is glad that whoever wins in the end that he will be getting the sum of money that they need to solve their financial crisis. It comes as a shock to him when he realizes that Mitsuhita has taken it up to be a real competition. She plans to become Nobuna's right-hand person, and whoever stands in her way to get there, she sees his competition. In this case, she perceives our guy to be her enemy. When Konoe hears that Nobuna might end up getting the money she needs, he becomes restless. However, he has no control over the people in his circle because they all see themselves as equals. Yoshi doesn't know what to prepare yet, and he decides to visit Louise in the church. During his conversation with the lady, it dawns on him that he can actually prepare mayonnaise, which is something no one in this timeline has tasted. On the battlefield, Nobuna's generals are able to push back the enemy forces, securing them the win. On the day of the food battle, Yoshi appears calm and collected, while Mitsuhita means business. The competition begins, and she wastes no time in digging into the ingredients that she needs to make her desired dish. Everything in her head is how she is not going to lose to the Monkey Man. While she is doing her best to come out on top, Monkey is busy having issues with the creation of fire. Even the oil he is using is not enough, but not long after he gets his rhythm. Once he is done, he presents the dish to the judges. It doesn't look enticing, but their perspective changes immediately when they taste the dish. Even Suda himself cannot but marvel at the taste of such a wonderful dish. At this point, Mitsuhita is scared that she's going to lose. She watched as the judges consumed everything that Yoshi put in front of them. She's even angry with the way Nobuna is smiling at our MC because she already has this delusion that Nobuna's smile belongs to her and only her. When it is time for the judges to eat Mitsuhita's dish, she is met with disappointment. None of them approves of the dish she made. Even though the ingredients are perfect, they believe that she rushed it, which is why it didn't come out great. Yoshi already believes that he is going to win, but when the result comes in, everyone, even the spectators, is shocked that the 36 merchants voted in favor of Mitsuhita. It is obvious that Suda has bribed all the merchants, but Mitsuhita doesn't care because all she can think about is how she won. However, she soon realizes that she has messed up. Nobuna and the rest of the team leave the scene with disappointed faces. They might have gotten the money they needed, but the bad guys had successfully planted the seeds of distrust in Nobuna's camp. To top it all off, they sent an assassin to finish her off. After Konoe got the money he asked for, he had no choice but to install Amagala as the new leader. However, things don't seem to be going well for Mitsuhita as she's getting isolated from the team. Yoshi knows he needs to do something about the issue because it might end up biting him in the ass. This is something that has happened in the game and he knows how badly it went, which is why he doesn't want a recurrence of it. Mitsuhita talks to Imai about the competition, and this is where she realizes where she got it wrong. She was taking it as a competition while Yoshi and Nobuna were looking at her like family. She's always been the competitive type, but Imai's words change her mentality of the way she now sees things. Later on, reports come in that some of the team's strategies have started failing. Our guy is shocked to hear this, and he starts to fear the worst. He assumes everything he knows in the game is changing because of the major changes he made. Even though he is scared, he remains determined about his dream to help Nobuna unite the country. Ori and Mino seem to be under attack, and Nobuna wants to withdraw her forces to help combat this, but Yoshi advises against it. However, Nobuna appears to be troubled and she doesn't hesitate before lashing out at our guy. She can call him useless, telling him that she doesn't want to see him again. Without wasting time, Nobuna's main forces start to make their return home, leaving only Amagawa and a tiny security detail to guard Kiyo. Unknown to her, this is a plan by the bad guys to lure her out, and she has fallen for it. With her plans underway, Asakura leaves to intercept Nobuna, who he plans to marry. Unknown to him, Konoe is planning to kill Nobuna. While preparing to leave, the assassin sent after Nobuna finds Yoshi and kidnaps him in an attempt to use him as bait to lure Nobuna out. Nobuna calls Mitsuhita to tell her that the city's protection is in her hands and the hands of her forces. She wants Mitsuhita to defend it with her life until she returns. Mitsuhita, who has been looking for ways to redeem herself, sees this as the best opportunity to do so. Just when Nobuna is about to ride out, she learns that Yoshi has been kidnapped. She wastes no time in tracking down the path of the assassin. She hopes to find the guy safe and sound because she wants to apologize to him. Our MC offers the assassin 3 times the money he has promised, but he doesn't care about this. He cares about the fame that comes with the fact that he is the one who kills Oda Nobunaga. He is an assassin, so he obviously does not want peace and unity in the land. Not long after this, enemy forces invade Kyoto in an attempt to reach Yoshimoto. Mitsuhide orders her forces to barricade themselves in and lay siege. She plans to play defense until she is able to wear out the enemy. She stays on guard in front of Yoshimoto's chambers, but moments later, Danjo shows up to take Yoshimoto's head. Determined like an ox, Mitsuhide is ready to defend the ruler with her life. As Nobunaga gets closer to where Yoshi is, the assassin lays in wait with his sniper, ready to kill her once he gets the perfect shot. Our guy knows that he needs to do something, or else Nobunaga will die while trying to save him. Luckily, his cell phone was beside him. He prays that the cell phone comes on, even if it is just this once. The fight between Mitsuhide and her opponent intensifies, and when Danjo tries taking her out with illusions, Mitsuhide causes herself pain to escape. Danjo is impressed with the girl's determination, but tells her that it is a waste because Nobunaga is already marked for assassination. Mitsuhide falls to the floor, losing all hope when she hears this. Out of nowhere, she hears a gunshot from behind, and guess who? It is none other than Nobunaga herself. It turns out that Yoshi was able to distract the assassin, which caused him to miss his shot. However, he escaped before Nobunaga could reach him. Now that Nobunaga has arrived with reinforcements, Danjo is outnumbered. She tries to harm Mitsuhide, but Yoshi saves her just in time, letting her know that she is still a member of the family. More people soon arrive to back Nobunaga up, and at this moment, Danjo realizes that she is wrong about the Countess. She is someone that she should serve and not kill. Danjo drops her weapon and surrenders herself to Nobunaga. Once the battle is over, a new order and governing power is put into place. This marks another step toward Nobunaga reuniting the country. Later on, Yoshi and Nobunaga visit the temple. This is when they learn about Himiko's powers. Apparently, Himiko can see someone's true personality once she touches them. She already knows the kind of person Yoshi is just by touching him. She assures Nobunaga that she is a good person backing her up, but also lets her know about Yoshi's obsession with girls. When Himiko asks Nobunaga why she wouldn't lead the new regime herself, she simply replies that all she wants is freedom. She wants a chance to choose her own future, and this includes her dreams. After hearing this, Himiko prays for the lady, hoping that her dreams come true. Days later, Danjo confesses to the team and she lets them know about the conspirators. Nobunaga plans to head to a place called Wakasa to crush the bad guys. In the game, Nobunaga headed to Ichizen instead, but it seems she is changing things up. She then decides to leave Yoshi and Kyo to keep the city safe. Before leaving, Mitsuhide gives our guy a pouch of charm meant to protect him. She urges him to stay alive because she wants them to both witness Nobunaga's greatness. Elsewhere, something totally unexpected happens when Nobusumi runs into Asai at the women's bath. This is when Asai finds out that Nobusumi is a man, but that is not the end. In a twist of things, it turns out that Asai is actually a woman who has been posing as a man. Asai tells Nobusumi that her parents don't like female children, which is why she was forced to dress like a man. If she ever dreams of ruling the clan, she needs to act like a man. This is also the reason she wanted to marry multiple women across the land. After hearing her story, Nobusumi comforts her and even hugs the lady, assuring her that she is safe. Nobusumi lets the lady know that she is his wife and that she should be free whenever they are together. When Nobunaga and her forces reach Aomi, they are given permission to pass by the Asai leader. This is a relief because they don't have to fight their way out. Back in Kyoto, Hanbei is down with a fever because she overused her power. Our MC is in charge of taking care of her and Nene is also helping. Yoshi starts talking about the event in the game and how Nobunaga has managed to evade a major catastrophe by not attacking Ichizen. It was at this moment that Hanbei decided to confess. She realizes that Nobunaga is in danger. Apparently Nobunaga is aiming for Ichizen, but only lied to our guy that she is headed to Wakasa. While this is happening, the leader of the Asai clan has betrayed Nobunaga. He has also thrown his daughter in prison to prevent her from communicating with the Countess. With Asai's betrayal, Nobunaga's forces will be cut off, making it difficult for her to retreat. Since a warning needs to be passed across, Hanbei transports Yoshi to Onwa with her powers. He finds Nobusumi, who tells him that the Asai leader has betrayed them. Nobusumi is not able to run away because of a broken bridge, but gives our guy something that will prove to Nobunaga that she has been betrayed. Yoshi manages to reach Nobunaga's camp to tell her about the betrayal. He wants to take the blame for what is about to happen, but Nobunaga tells him not to. It is not his fault after all, because if she had come clean from the start, he would have been able to warn her. At the same time, Asakura's forces are making their way to them. Nobuna realizes that they are in deep shit and she volunteers to lead the rear forces, which will distract the enemies. However, her retainers cannot allow this because without her they are nothing. To avoid too much debate on who has to stay back, Yoshi volunteers. He wants to help Nobuna achieve her dreams, and the best way to do this is to make sure she comes out alive. He doesn't care about his life because he is confident that he would have died in a ditch if he hadn't met Nobuna. He then gives Nobuna his cell phone as a sign of love and probable goodbye. Nobuna doesn't want to let go, but Yoshi manages to convince her, letting her know that he was probably sent to this world for this very moment. He then asks for a reward of a kiss in advance. If he makes it back alive, he wants her to kiss him. Without hesitation, she agrees to the deal. After an emotional farewell, Nobuna and her major forces move out, leading Yoshi and his team to slow down the enemies. Motoyasu and Mitsuhita want to stay back too, but he finds a way to convince them that Nobuna needs them. With his 500 men, Yoshi has to use all the techniques he knows to slow down the enemy, while also minimizing casualties. When the battle begins, he places his men in two sections. The first set hits the enemy, and while they are reloading, the second set keeps the fire going. This not only slows down the enemy, but also reduces their numbers. With his first attack, he is able to chase away the enemies, but he knows that they are going to be back. He then tells Goemon to run to Mino and get him the Viper. He wanted to use Sato's forces to trim down the enemy's bolt forces. Before leaving, Goemon tells her men to make sure that Yoshi is alive and kicking by the time she returns. Apparently the men don't need extra motivation because every single one of them will die for our guy. After causing the enemy a huge problem, he and his men retreat to lure them in. Nobuna makes a pit stop and she gets second thoughts about going back to Yoshi. A slap from Katsui gets her back to her senses. As more enemy forces close in on Nobuna, Danjo leaves to make a deal. The bad guys sit in their chambers laughing at how perfect their plan is going. Meanwhile, Nobuna is riding to safety when she is suddenly shot by a sniper that has been waiting for her. Meanwhile, Yoshi is managing his soldiers well. He's able to run circles around the enemies, making them wonder if they are being hit by a larger force. However, things start to go south when the Asakura forces enter the fray. Yoshi encounters Yoshitatsu, who almost impales him, but someone else takes the fall. This soldier's sacrifice gives Yoshi the chance to escape. Back at the castle, Hanbei forces herself to break her fever, so she can be of assistance to the group. Our MC wants to return to the battlefield, but he is convinced not to. His loyal soldiers remind him that those who died for him would have been a waste if he goes back to the battlefield. At this point, everyone seems to want Yoshi's head. Motoyasu and Mitsuhita soon change their mind to go back and save Yoshi. As the battle intensifies, more soldiers die just for Yoshi to remain alive. At one point he thinks it is over, but Zenki shows up to save his ass. Hanzo and Zenki aim to get him out of the battlefield alive, even though he is stubborn. During their argument, Yoshitatsu catches up and he is armed with a big gun. Just one shot from his gun sends fear down everyone's spine. To save his comrades, Yoshi suggests that they split up. It is apparent that Yoshitatsu will wipe them all out if they stay together. At the temple, we find out that Nobuna somehow survived the gunshot. When our MC comes face to face with Yoshitatsu, he begs him to spare the rest of his comrades since the person he wants is him. Yoshitatsu agrees to this, but before he can eliminate Yoshi, Hanzo takes matters into his own hands. He hits our guy with a bomb that leaves his remains scattered everywhere. Mitsuhita and the others witness this, causing them intense agony. Mitsuhita goes after Yoshitatsu, and he sends her flying with his big gun. It turns out that Nobuna was able to survive thanks to Yoshi's cell phone that was inside her clothes. She is unconscious but alive, and the only thing coming out of her mouth is Yoshi's name. When the bad guys learn that Nobuna is still alive, they start to panic, but Konoe is confident that the girl cannot make it. The Nobuna forces are now face to face with the enemy forces. The Nobuna forces are at a disadvantage because their leader is not present. Nobuna's ministers want to avenge Yoshi's death by punishing Hanzo, but it is obvious that the guy's gone. Danjo then offers to use her powers to wake the Countess, since her forces need her now more than ever. Danjo uses her power to help Nobuna get out of the emotional coma in which she has found herself. When Nobuna wakes up, she's informed of Yoshi's death. Everything about her turns upside down at that very moment. Danjo then uses the opportunity to plant a seed of vengeance inside Nobuna. She knows that she is emotionally unstable, and she uses this to her advantage. Danjo believes that a bloodlust Nobuna is the best chance they have if they are going to unite Japan. Not long after this, reports started flying around that Nobuna's forces had gone rogue. There is no mercy again when it comes to Nobuna and her forces. Even the civilians don't feel safe with the recent change that just happened to Nobunaga. The enemy forces almost shit their pants when they realize that Nobunaga is alive and kicking. With her leadership, it is pretty obvious that they have no chance of winning. The general leading the enemy forces immediately orders his men to retreat to Omi. Later on, the Countess learns that Asakura, Suda, and Konoe have fled to the Haya mountain, where the temple headquarters is located. Normally no army or force would enter the mountain, but Nobunaga has lost all sense of reasoning. Her focus is revenge and she is going to get it in any way it comes. Katsui tries to warn her that attacking the temple will only make the people mad, but she doesn't give a damn. It takes up to 2 ministers pleading with her to at least reconsider. They let her know that the people turning against them would mean all of their efforts would be in vain. Suda is soon betrayed by his peers when he is sent to make a peace agreement with Nobunaga. Suda arrives in Nobunaga's camp with a letter and a gift box. When she opens it, she is shocked to see the head of the monkey's statue, which basically means Konoe is mocking her lover's death. This is the final straw for Nobunaga, and she finally snaps. She gets on her horse and starts riding to the temple. Her retainers have no choice but to muster all the forces to ride with her too. As she heads to the temple, Nobunaga already has her sights set on killing everyone involved in the mess. Unknown to Nobunaga, she has fallen for Konoe's tricks. He actually wants her to come to the mountain while he secretly takes the city with the forces he has prepared beforehand. In addition, Konoe is confident that he will be able to kill Nobunaga when she arrives at the mountain. Asakura, on the other hand, has plans of his own. He tells his trusted generals to capture Nobunaga alive, since he wants to make her his wife. Back at Nobunaga's camp, her allies know she needs to be stopped before things go from bad to Japan's on fire. Hanbei, Nene, and the others desperately wish Yoshi was still alive to fix everything. Hanbei, however, has a hunch that their chaos-loving monkey isn't actually dead. And wouldn't you know it? She's right. Turns out Mitsuhita survived the explosion, and Hanbei explains what really happened. Instead of killing Yoshi, Hanzo actually saved him. That explosion was just a smoke bomb, giving Yoshi a chance to pull a classic anime escape by vanishing through a hole beneath him. Now, out in the woods, Hanzo, Motoyasu, and Goemon are playing an intense game of Find the Protagonist. Thankfully, Mitsuhita finds him first, thanks to the charm pouch she gave him earlier. As Nobunaga gets closer to the mountain, a bunch of gunpowder set in place explodes, knocking her off her horse. Mitsuhita gets Yoshi into a cave, where she wraps her body around his to keep him warm. When Nobunaga regains consciousness, things don't seem to be going her way. Konoe has set fire to the mountain to try and implicate Nobunaga. He is confident that this trick of his has eventually turned Japan against Nobunaga. All of her plans to unite the country have just been dumped in the trash. Even the priest is shocked at how far Konoe is willing to go. He tries to grab Konoe, but he gets knocked out. Asakura witnesses this and realizes that Konoe is nothing but a snake. Nobunaga stands in front of the fire and destruction, realizing that Yoshi is right all along. When Katsui runs into Asakura's trusted soldiers, she easily displaces them, letting them know how far apart their difference in strength is. When Asakura realizes that his plan is nothing but a farce, he and his soldiers withdraw, aiming to meet Nobunaga in the future. Nobunaga soon runs into the masked Yoshitatsu, and he seems hellbent on taking down Nobunaga. All the while, the search for Yoshi continues. The fight between Yoshitatsu and Nobunaga seems one-sided, as the guy proves to be overwhelmingly stronger than her. Just from the musclehead prepares to finally finish Nobunaga, her retainers appear to save her. Yoshitatsu then ignores Nobunaga and goes after her retainers instead. He even tells her where she can find Konoe. Nobunaga finds Konoe waiting for her, and he is armed with a sword. Konoe explains that everything he had done was to make sure that the status of power remained the same. He believes that the poor should remain poor while the rich get richer. A fierce sword fight ensues between the two, and after a few sword clashes, Konoe gets the edge on Nobunaga. He dashes toward her with everything he has and tries pushing his sword into her, but Nobunaga survives the attack, thanks to Yoshi's phone yet again. This gives Nobunaga the chance to deliver her own fatal blow. She slashes Konoe in the face, causing him to stagger backwards. Out of nowhere, a fiery pole comes crashing down to kill him. After defeating her enemy, Nobunaga starts to contemplate death since the only person she loves is dead. At that moment, Yoshi emerges from behind the fire. He runs toward Nobunaga while calling out her name. She assumes that she is in dreamland, but nonetheless runs toward our guy too. The two hug each other, and Nobunaga doesn't hesitate to scold Yoshi for leading her behind. The two are about to share a passionate kiss until Nobunaga realizes that the rest of the team is watching. She immediately switches up and hits Yoshi instead, even though she's acting all tough. Everyone knows that she is head over heels for the guy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Yoshitatsu retreats, but not before, making it very clear that this isn't over, he'll be back. And just like that, the civil war continues. Japan is still on the brink of chaos, but Nobunaga, ever the determined leader, pushes forward, ready to fight for the unification of the nation. And so the legend of Monkey and Nobunaga continues. Thanks for watching. Want more anime recaps? Subscribe the channels and turn on notification bell.